You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the FLOWMASTer SCHWARTZ from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back live on the network here. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. Time for a little bit of the old OB. Did you miss us? We were gone for a little bit of the old. Of course, market holidays at the end of the week last week. Took a little bit of a spring hiatus earlier this week as well. I think this might be the longest I've gone without cracking a mic in quite some time. Usually the producer's always cracking the whip, even when I'm traveling, even when I'm on vacation. I'm out there doing shows from the Southern studio, whatever the case may be. This time, no, which was kind of fascinating. I didn't know what to do with myself, not talking on a microphone. It felt weird. I was like an addict going through withdrawal. Luckily for you folks, no withdrawal for you folks. Last week, last Friday, even though the markets were closed, you got a fun taste of vol views. We cut together all the fun snippets of our great volatility debate. What the hell is killing vol out there right now? A lot of people giving us their thoughts on that. We cut it all together for a fun little vol views murder mystery whodunit special. Hope you folks enjoyed that. And after that, for our pro folks, you got a taste of the old oddities as well, even though the markets are closed. That's how much we love you folks. Coming in on Monday, no live OB, of course, but you all got a taste of my chat with the folks over there at CBOE, Kathy Clay in particular. What is the head of derivatives over there think about? A lot of the questions you folks are asking us right now about what's the future for zero-day options? What's the future for one-day VIX? Why don't we have options yet on the crypto ETFs that just got approved to much fanfare? All sorts of fun. You put those questions to us on your behalf. I put them to them. What do they have to say? Check that out. That hit on Monday. Tuesday, of course, you got a taste of the advisors option. You want to go deep into that what's killing vol debate, as well as a whole bunch of other fun stuff with myself, Mr. Matt from Oratz, and Nick from Shelton's Capital. And then check that out on Tuesday. Yesterday, of course, you got your taste of OBC in your ear holes until we're live again today on the old OB. You folks, an embarrassment of riches for you folks out there. The listener, always number one. Even when I'm traveling, you folks getting the goodies coming your way. And let's see who's joining us on the old program today. What kind of goodies we have coming our way, shall we? First, let's go out to the Southern Volatility Mecca. Haven't been there in a little bit, where we are joined once again by the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the Thursday program. How go things in the Southern Vol Mecca, sir?
Better than they go in the main Vol Mecca, where they had a snow and windstorm last night, and they don't have power. Yeah,
I always joke about it being a hellacious, nightmarish landscape. It seems to be coming true right now. The Rock Lobster always complaining about his furnace, but then no power, and then just rough times out there on the shores of Maine. As we keep on rolling now out, let's go to CBOE East, where the FLOWMASTER and I just earlier this week were like two ships passing in the night, almost quite literally, because we were going to go out to the doorstep of CBOE East to take said boat, said ferry out to Liberty Island. Alas, bad weather intervened and we had to change our plans at the last minute. So I missed the FLOWMASTER, aka Mr. Henry Schwartz from SEBO. Mr. FLOWMASTER, welcome back to the show, and we'll have to do it next time, sir. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry that I tried to get you some decent weather, but you just came in for the rainy season.
Yeah, geez, monsoon.
It's cleared up now. It's nice and sunny, and market's up and VIX is down. So, everything is right in the world again. But I'm sorry I missed you. I'll be in Chicago next Thursday. We can tape live if you want.
Oh. Let's do something like that. That might be fun. And then last but not least, joining us fashionably late, as always, the prima donna of all prima donnas, the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to Ye Old Program to you as well.
Always happy to be here and happy to report that the power is on and doing well here in St. Charles.
Power is on everywhere except for the shores of Maine as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's get to the trading block, break down what the heck has been trading today. And of course, because we were off earlier this week, maybe a little bit of earlier this week as well. Coming into the start of the show today, we have pretty much mostly green on ye old screen. We have the Dow, the laggard today, the Amazon-laden Dow, up only 0.5%. I put only in air quotes there. S&P up about 0.75%. The NASDAQ feeling its oats out there, up almost 1.1% on the day. So a lot of green on the old NASDAQ screen out there. And let us not forget our old friends, the small caps out there as well, up nearly a full percent there as well, 0.9%. So one of those rare days where all the major indices are moving in lockstep. Of course, this comes off the heels of a few earlier sessions this week where it seems like, I go away for a few days and you guys just break the market. A lot of folks spooked about maybe not going to get the Fed rate cuts. We've all been saying that on this show for a while. It doesn't seem like they're going to be crazy mad dash to cut the rates, but folks may be a little bit surprised by some of that this week and taking it on the chin out there in the market. A lot of red earlier this week, obviously getting some of that back again right now. As we're recording, listeners, we're still right around that magical 52 half level. We love vacillating around it out there on the S&P. VIX right now, as we're going back. Remember, we're going back a full week now. So going back a full week, VIX is at about a 1380. That actually puts it up about 0.8 of a point. Of course, we had a little bit of a VIX rally earlier this week, got up to around threatening a 15 handle out there, so I haven't seen that in a little bit. VVIX at about a 78, puts it up 2 points again from the Thursday show last week. VXX at a 13, up about 1/4 of a point. UVXY waiting for that anemic 5-for-1 reverse split at a 630 right now, up about 0.2 of a point. SVIX 4210 down a full point from a week ago, and UVIX at an 880, up about 1/3 of a point right now as we're kicking off the show. Now let's go around the horn. Let's start out there in the land of CBOE East. I was looking down on it yesterday, listeners, from that new observatory at the top of the old World Trade, which is a very interesting observatory, very cool, elevated. I've never been up there before, so I was definitely playing New York tourist in a whirlwind 24 hours Actually, not yesterday, but on Tuesday. But intriguing stuff nonetheless. Mr. Flowmaster, have you been up there to said observatory? And B, what's been catching your eye in a rocky week coming into today, sir?
I've not actually been up at that observatory. I would like to go, and I did hear that the elevator was the coolest part. There's also a really cool one over by Hudson Yards called The Edge, which has like a glass floor. Let's see what's been catching my eye. I mean, we had a couple rocky days, as you said. It almost felt like maybe this bull run was going to take a pause, but yet again, it kind of feels like maybe it was just a buying opportunity. I've been paying a lot of attention to, a lot of the people I consider pretty smart out there, looking at kind of the market conditions, with the macro conditions. I even listened to your advisors show yesterday, and yes, we're pretty extended in terms of valuations and earnings, but, then on the flip side, you got an election year, you have the Fed that, maybe is going to cut rates eventually. And earnings have been coming in strong. So, it's a very dynamic market. It's been interesting to see kind of the shakeup in the Mag 7 and, some of the death knells that people are calling for, and just a lot going on. It's been good.
A lot going on indeed. As we go around the horn, let's go out to the magical wonderland known as St. Charles, where all is right as rain out there. Mr. Uncle Mike wasn't looking like an Uncle Mike start to the week, but now you're getting your action today. What's been catching your eye? Indeed, earlier this week when we were off, when we saw a lot of red on the screen, and now coming into today where the Uncle Mike fans are back in full effect.
Good to have the Uncle Mike fans back. I'll tell you what's really catching my eye today, even more so than the stock market. It's this shiny metal called silver. Looking at SLV, we're knocking on the 25 door. And so we have not touched 25 in, just looking back here, it's been a very, very, very long time. And so probably I'm going back to 2021. And so that's a pretty exciting thing. The 3-year high for SLV is 2643 and looking at it. And the 10-year high for SLV is just under 28. And so with silver, it's kind of a funny thing in that no one ever expects it to go up when it goes up. And a lot of people come to the party late. And I like to refer to it as it just shows up kind of like a thief in the night. And looks like the thief might be knocking on the door a little bit, but he might get scared and go away soon. You never know. But for those of us that have silver holdings, it's definitely pleasant to see silver getting a little bit of upside love in the recent weeks. In terms of the market itself, looks like the S&P is recovered from the down days that they've had. I mean, we did have a full down couple of days. I mean, by all means, we need to haven't made an all-time high yet this week. We need to get that done. Come on, market. What are you doing? It does kind of feel that way. Just looking at the S&P itself, we are roughly 15 points off the all-time highs, just as I'm looking at this. So we're knocking at the door again, and we'll see if we can break through to new all-time highs and see where we can go with it. The other things that are catching my eyes, bonds have sold off. It'll be interesting to see if we go lower in the bond world, if yields can go higher. I don't know if the 10-year might make another run at the 5% mark. I don't see that happening, but you never know. It seemed like the Fed kind of wants us to think they're going to lower rates, but they might not. And there seems to be a lot of uncertainty with that. And I do believe that going forward, the bonds will be right before stocks will. Going forward, and what way that leads to over the next few weeks, we shall see. Back to you, Mark.
We shall see indeed. Is the thief in the night here, listeners, in silver? Maybe we'll discuss that in a little bit later on TWIFO. Well, I will be joined by, I'm not sure how big of a silver head he is. I guess we'll find out, by the once and future Dr. Bix. I know he likes talking a lot of energy, a lot of nat gas, obviously a lot of equity vol. Maybe we'll wring a little precious metals out of them. We'll have to see what the movers and shakers hold in store for us this week. But that's coming up in a little bit as we keep on rolling and go around the horn back to the Southern Vol Mecca Mr. Meatball, sir, what's been catching your eye in a tumultuous week, culminating, at least right now, in a little bit of green on the screen, sir?
Yeah, we're having a nice day. Obviously, Monday and Tuesday were a little red, and then, we picked up almost all of that back. I'm still concerned at the general move in vol relative to the market. We've been having this pattern of higher highs and higher lows in VIX, even as we've been hitting these new highs. The bond market looks tumultuous and at a minimum slightly worried as we speak right now. I'm interested to see whether it's at a breaking point. And, for those worried about thinking the Fed is going to be cutting rates, gold, silver, oil, they're all telling us no. What is interesting is that for most of this gold rally until the last couple of days, the dollar has been really strong. Now that even that's backing off a little bit, I look at this market and I wonder whether we're at a top or approaching a top, because things just look. All of the data that I pay attention to says we could be, but then again, all the data I look at has also not been saying we were going to rally to 5250. So, take that with a grain of salt. But I do think things look a little tenuous here.
Tenuous indeed. A good description for the market. I know you like to sling a little bit of 0-day as well, Mr. Meatball. An interesting week to be doing so. We were kind of whipsawing around a little bit, mostly to the dark side earlier this week, and now obviously to the upside. Any interesting 0-day action coming across your screen this week, sir?
I mean, across the board. 0DTE continues to just be voluminous relative to everything else going on in markets. It's been a really nice springboard for the overall market. We had some nice trading in our 0DTE service the last few days. Today, the action is on the 5260s. They're actually which is interesting. That's the most active strike, is the 5260 strike. Also some action on the 50s and the 65s. I think it's funny. It's weird that the 5260s are outpacing the 5250s and the 5255s. On the downside, the most active strike is the 40s. I look at these premiums and I say to myself, the near dated premium selling might be getting a little overboard. I understand they're spreading, but we've had a pretty we're up 40 points. We've been up nearly 50, and they'll sell you a option with 3 hours left in the day, $5 out of the money for $2.60. To me, that says that maybe some of this premium depression is a little over the top.
Over the top indeed. Let's see if these markets are over the top today, listeners, or if they're kind of having a gentle drift higher, at least from a volume perspective. And the answer when we kick things off in VIX land, as I fire up the old trade alert machine, see what's lighting up the tape out there today. The answer in VIX land is kind of a gentle malaise to the upside, at least from a volume perspective. Only about 250,000 contracts on the tape right now, 254 to be precise. That's a whole heck of a lot of nothing out there in VIX land right now. The ADV is 705, so again, not a heck of a lot lighting it up. The big dog out there, such as it is, looks like maybe a 14.5 put spread going up about 20,000 times out there. Also, 20,000 of the July 14 puts going up today. Exactly. So that's an interesting one. So 20,000 lots pretty much dominate the tape, all on the put side. 14, and then July 14 puts. So that's 60,000 of your roughly 250,000 contracts right there. The rest, not a lot to write home about, listeners. SPY, speaking of not writing home about, listeners, SPY, we haven't seen SPY this light this time in the day in quite some time, listeners. Usually this time of the show, and granted, maybe we sometimes come to it a little bit later, I'll give it a few more minutes. But right now, SPY at about 3.3 million. That's fully a million contracts below where we've come to expect it at this time of the show. So SPY looking like a whole lot of nothing out there right now. The ADV 7.65 million. So will it even hit that today? That's an open question. The S, as you might imagine, if SPY is languishing, you could probably guess that the S is languishing as well. And that is pretty much the case. 1.42 million contracts up in the S against an ADV of a little over 3 million. Again, not that long ago, 1.4 million. Oh my God, banger day in the S. These days, snooze fest in the S, listeners. Shows you just how much these 0 days have changed. Might be good. It's coming up now in 2 years. Might be a good little time frame to look back at some data points and how exactly the S has changed pre and post the 0 day extravaganza. What is not really an extravaganza, but looking respectable nonetheless out there today. Our small caps, 550,000. That's exactly halfway to their ADV, which is 1.1 million. So they seem like they're on track to do some business today out there in the small caps. And looking a little bit light out there today as well are the Qs. Usually this time of the show, they're at about 2.2, maybe 2.3 million. Right now, 1.98. So not even making 2 million right now. So a little bit light, but who knows? They could always kick into gear in the second half of the show. Are the single names, though, are they delivering? Are they kicking into gear? The answer out there, probably not surprisingly, is no as well. 191,000. That's all it cost you to break into the top 10 today, listeners. That gets you to our old friend Pabst Blue Ribbon, a.k.a. PBR, trading right around $16 right now, up about 40 cents or about 2.5% today. So nice little underlying day out there for PBR and doing 191,000 contracts. So nothing to sneeze at out there for number 10, I should say. Number 9, it's Softy, 427.60, up about 7.14 or 1.7%. So popping nicely out there today for Softy. Number 9, 209,000 contracts. Number 8, everything old is new again. It's Micron, 240,000 contracts on the tape for number 8. They're up about 40 cents, trading about 128.40. So a gentle drift north, even though earlier today they got up to about 130.5. So they're more than $2 off their highs and also more than $2 off their lows of 126.08. So an intriguing day over about a $4.50 range for them on the day, kind of hanging out right in the middle out there right now. So balanced on the edge of a knife. Which way will they go? Listen, I guess we'll find out in a little bit. Number 7, it's Palantir, 23.12, up 42 cents or nearly 2%. Today, again, good for number 7, 280,000 contracts on the tape for them. Number 6, it's the newest member of the Dow. It's Amazon, 184.60, up 220 or about 1.2%. Good for 340,000 contracts on the tape. And the number 6 spot. Number 5, it's the fruit company on a lazy day. Putting up 417 is enough to get you to the number 5 spot. That's Apple today, 171.5, up about $1.80. So back breaking 170 in the right direction after kind of languishing down in the 160 odd range not too long ago out there. Let's see how low they got to 168, right about 168.5 or close to it out there over on Tuesday of this week. Yeah, so they have rallied a bit since then. Looks like they had a weird blip up to 176.25 yesterday before coming right back down. So intriguing stuff out there, trading 171.5. Good for 417,000. And the number 4 spot, the number 5 spot. Number 4, listeners, would be another A tech name. That would be AMD, 553,000 contracts. Going the other way, 176.5, off about 4.25 right now. Listeners, good for the number 4 spot. What's topping AMD today, you might be asking? Well, it's our old friend, the artist formerly known as Facebook, Meta, 561, 527.7. Man, that level just looks so crazy to me when they were just sub 100. It seems like not too long ago. $21 to the upside today, or a little over 4%. Looks like analysts shooting some love their way. That's good enough for a nice little rip to the upside today. And the number 3 overall spot on our list, listeners, at 561. Number 2, what can it be? Will it be Tesla? Has something kicked them to the curb? The answer is no. It is NVIDIA, number 2. A paltry 642. After threatening 1,000, now 894, almost 895, up about, actually just ticked 895, up about 540 out there right now. So intriguing stuff, only good. I say only in air quotes, only good for 642,000 contracts. That means the big dog is back in its slot and looking surprisingly robust on a pretty meager day, listeners. Tesla threatening 2 million contracts, 1.97 million. I'm sure if I re-rack this right now, it probably would be at 2 million right now. 176, pretty much even, up 770 or 4.5%. More buyers than sellers looks like out there today. I don't see a lot of great headlines popping them up 4.5% today. But again, it's Tesla, day that ends in Y. They are going to move, and they're going to put up some volume today. Nearly 2 million contracts on the tape. You know, let's look really quickly, just because I am curious. Listen, let's see. What is the big dog out in Tesla today? We got 146,000 of the 170 puts going up, and also 127,000 of the 175 calls. Again, these are all expiring tomorrow, listeners. And 126,000 of the 170s. Looks like a 170 vertical, maybe against the 170, 175 vertical, maybe against the 170 puts out there. Again, 126,000 by 127,000 by 146,000. Man, they are not playing out there when it comes to the size. And let's look in here, see if I can see exactly how that went up. But either way, that's a heck of a lot of paper out here, listeners. Yeah, I'll have to look and dig a little bit more into that. But wow, a lot of paper on the tape out here, including quite a bit, nearly 400,000 contracts just in those top three. You knew something was afoot when Tesla's threatening 2 million already at this point in the day. Rest of the week, in terms of earnings, was kind of lightless unless you're really excited about Dave & Buster's. Levi's on Wednesday, Conagra today. Dave & Buster's was on Tuesday. Listeners, we got earnings move results for you because we like you right before the bell here for Levi's. They were yesterday after the bell, 1866. They were pricing in 9%. They delivered 19%. So keeping the theme of the season alive, which is aggressive outperformance. Wow, we also got Conagra popping off today before the bell. They went into their announcement, 29.06 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 3.3%. They delivered 5.3%. So also outperforming out there, which is kind of interesting. Again, you can check all this data for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com. Right now, we've got, let's see, coming up this week, we got some names popping off. We've got next week, we've got Delta Airlines before the bell. They were at 46.5. They were pricing in 231. In the past, they've moved to $170 out there. So still some more names popping off if you like sinking your teeth into earnings, including probably the most robust season we've profiled yet. We've been crunching this data for a while. 127% is where it's shaken out right now with 811 names reporting. My goodness, that is, I think, to put it mildly, robust. If you want to hear a deep dive into all of that data and how he views it, of course, the cruncher of all that data, our buddy Mr. Matt, was on the Advisors Option Show with us last week. That's on the network now. I definitely encourage you, if you are intrigued by this, go check out that, in particular, the earnings volatility report segment on that show. A lot of great data there. Speaking of great data, it is time to unleash the FLOWMASTER. He's been cooking for a week. Let's see what he's got up his sleeve. A little bit of the old odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
Everybody, let's get to it. It's been a week. He's chomping at the bit. Let's unleash the FLOWMASTER, see what he's spotted out there today when he was sad that I couldn't meet him earlier this week over there in New York City. Looks like he has first fixed his gaze upon a newcomer here to the show and indeed to the network. This is Montauk Renewables, ticker symbol MNTK, trading 456, up about a quarter, about 5.5% today. So nice little pop for them out there today. Let's see on the year how they're doing. A little bit of a different story on the year, listeners. A year ago, they were trading a little over $7. So they're off about 260 or about 36% on the year. So not looking great. If you look at their high, which came right around November of last year, nearly $11, $10.95, then they're looking obviously a lot worse, cut more than in half from there. So yeah, a rough year. Looks like they bottomed out at about 367. That was just in late March, and now have rallied a wee bit from there, up nearly $1, trading 456 out there today. So again, a little bit of glass half full, glass half empty. If you're wondering what they are, they're a renewable energy company that processes biogas from landfills. So intriguing stuff out there. And what's also intriguing is the paper. The FLOWMASTER has spotted. Mr. FLOWMASTER, sir, what caught your eye out there in Montauk Renewables today?
Yeah, so this is kind of a funny one. I mean, it's a thin name. The average daily volume is just a couple hundred contracts. And so last week, over a couple of days, on Wednesday and Thursday, I noticed the May 5 calls getting bought, and there were some on Wednesday, 20 cents. Stock was around $4.10 ish. $4, and then they came back and bought more on Thursday, and I was able to see, because these were multi-market sweeps, that CBOE open close data set, which lets you see which side the customer is, was very helpful, so that we really did know it was customer, it was net opening. That was kind of funky enough. It's also a cheap dollar stock, right? Like a $4 stock. So I was intrigued enough to buy a little bit of stock. It took a couple of days, but that stock popped and has made me a little bit of money. There's no headlines on it or anything. It just, maybe it was some bottom fishing. I don't know if there's anything specific about this, but it's turned out to be an okay trade. And I'm kind of glad that I bought the stock instead of the options, just because, we talk about this sometimes. If you've got a stock that's only $2 or $3 or $4, it's basically like the stock is an option. In some cases, I'll buy the stock and maybe go look for some calls to sell or leave something out on the offer and turn it into a little bit of an overwrite. But just a funky one. It was only a few thousand contracts, but this one paid off.
I love the FLOWMASTER. He puts his money where his mouth is, usually to the stock these days, which is also fascinating, probably worth a discussion in and of itself. I'm looking at it right now on the FLOWMASTER's platform here, listeners, and we got about 2,100 of the May 5s open right now. That's what the FLOWMASTER was talking about. That's the number one size position. Right behind it, Mr. FLOWMASTER, 1,022 of the April 12 halves. I don't think those are going to come into play. We got a little bit of time. Things could get funky out here, but I don't know if the 12 halves are going to get the job done. Mr. Meatball, sir, what are your thoughts on this paper in this newcomer, Montauk? Did you spot these, and are you a fan?
I got to tell you, I did not spot these ones. It's a play. I'll say that.
It is a play indeed. Like you said, they're looking all right now. The stock, let's see, at about 460, up about nearly 30 cents today. I just went and looked while we were talking. It looks like they opened those 12 halves back in September when the stock was $9.50. So obviously 12 half looking a little bit better. It looks like they may have sold those for 65 cents. So obviously, if that's the case, they did them tied. So they're wearing it on the stock at around $9.50. That's an ouchie. But at least on the options side, it seems like those bad boys are going to pay. I'm sure they would love for the stock to rally back up there and get that stock called away at that level. That would be a win-win again out there. But intriguing stuff. Sometimes thin names have some fun stuff afoot as we keep on rolling. Speaking of thin names, let's go out to another one that caught the eye of the FLOWMASTER today. This is Fluence Energy, Inc., ticker symbol FLNC. This is an energy company out of Virginia. Looks like they do some grid storage work here. Trading $17.20, up about $0.75 or about 4.5%. So nice little day out there for everyone's new favorite, Fluence Energy. Let's see what kind of year they're having. On the year, not quite as robust, off about 270 or about 13.5%. They were trading nearly $20 a year ago. little over 17 right now. They got up to their high for the year in July 18th, 31 and about a third. So obviously, if you look at it from there, cut almost in half. And of course, if you get to their low for the year, which was $13, pretty much even, back on March 14th, they were cut more than in half. So kind of a rough year for them overall. But of course, if you got in around March 14th, you got a little bit of a smiley face on. So again, kind of a bit of a glass half full, glass half empty type trade. And Mr. Flowmaster, looks like maybe somebody thinks the party is continuing. What did you spot out there in Fluence Energy, sir?
Yeah, so this one, I've never heard of this symbol, but when I pulled up the profile on Fidelity, I noticed it actually mentions energy storage and AI. And as we know, the AI...
Of course it does. I don't care what you do.
I don't know how they use the AI, but it's in the description. So this one was, as you said, it's a $17 stock-ish. It looks like, I was reading through some old headlines. There was one of those short reports from a short seller about the stock having all sorts of skeletons in the closet back in February. That's what created a big burst of flow middle of February, and that stock was down from like 22 to 14-ish. It's kind of waffled around since then, and there's even some upgrades. And so what I saw today was a buyer of 2,050 of the April 17.5 calls. They paid 90 cents in a sweep when the stock was at 17.21. And those are opening, and on the day, they're up to about 4,200 of them. And the average daily call volume in the stock is about 700 contracts. So this is kind of, I really like to look for these, unusual spikes of activity, aggressive sweeps being used to put on the position, being confirmed by the open close data as an opening customer buyer. And then in this case, we also have a decent volatility bump to it as well. So this is another one. Actually, I put on a small position in the stock for full transparency after I saw it. And I'll keep an eye on it. I mean, it's up 5% today, and that's pretty much where they got in. So not sure if it has earnings around the corner or anything else, but we're still kind of oscillating between these moments where we see kind of concern about the macro environment and the multiple expansion, and the Fed's never going to be able to cut rates or it'll never be justified by the data. And then we get back into these kind of speculative-y, frothy days like today is, and yesterday actually as well. So, trying to kind of surf that a little bit and not get smoked if we have a hard sell-off is kind of the name of the game. And I think this is an interesting one to me. I'm going to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, this is definitely a good example of sprinkling a little AI on there to try to spice up the meatball here. They're energy storage for renewables, listeners. And they say they've stored 22.7 gigawatts of AI optimized renewables. Whatever that means. You make Jif peanut butter, AI peanut butter. Why not? AI, those two letters magically go well with just about any stock. Doesn't matter what the hell you do out there. So AI optimized renewable energy storage. That's what we're talking about here. In particular, somebody liking the upside to the tune of the April 17 halves. They don't have too long to go out there. Mr. Meatball, same question for you out there, sir. Are you down with a little bit of the old April 17 half action in your new favorite AI renewable energy storage name, Fluence?
Well, I mean, it's AI. Of course I am. How could that go wrong? Renewable energy and AI all in one? Holy cow. How can I lose? This is like automatic money, Mark.
Yeah, all I gotta do is throw EV in there somewhere, and then they got hit all the buzzwords.
If the renewable energy uses gold, then we're really talking.
90 cents they're paying for these bad boys too. They're not messing around. With a few weeks to go, they're not even in the money, listeners. The stock was about $17.21 when they put this up, so 90 cents, listeners. A couple of weeks to go, out of the money calls in a $17 stock, roughly. You like that? I think I could see why maybe Flowmaster went a little bit of the stock route instead. It's kind of rich. It's a 71 vol on these calls, listeners. Let's get out of here on this one. We're going back to an old favorite. This is Match Group, ticker symbol MTCH. You know them. You love them. We've talked about a lot of size put sellers out there. Is that what's going on today as well? I guess you got to wait to find out. Match Group having a little bit of a tough day. 34.65 off about $1.11, little over 3% on the day. On the year, let's see how our friend Match has been faring. Right now, it's mostly treading water, giving up about 2 1/3, about 6.3% on the year. They got as high as, looks like almost $50, 49 1/4 back in mid-July. And then they came for it, crushed it to its low for the year, back right around Halloween of 27.85. So they had a rough year, cut almost exactly in half from their high to their low. Then they've rallied it since then, back up to right now about 34, again, in 2/3 right now. So getting a little bit of the old luster back. And what was our friend up to out there today? Is the size put seller back in Match? The answer is yes, listeners. They are back to the tune of 12,850 of the May 30 puts. These are in the weeklies, expiring on the 10th. So they're going out to play in the weeklies today, which is kind of interesting. Not a lot of time for them to play on those. They got a little over a month. And let's see, that's about a 47 vol. So that's fairly rich for a Match. Also, the 30 strike, listeners. We've seen them get a little bit closer to the fire, but it's not crazy. Again, they're 34.65 right now. The stock bottomed out at 27.85, so you could be wearing it a bit on these puts, but not, looks like, at least from a recent history perspective, not too terribly. They put these puts on when the stock was 35 1/4, so they're wearing it a little bit on the stock right now. There are earnings between now and these puts as well, so they're also playing a little bit fast and loose with the earnings. They could have obviously just gone with the monthlies and skipped the earnings, but they went through earnings. Earnings are on April 30th, so maybe playing a little bit fast and loose out here with a little bit of Match put selling. Mr. Flowmaster, have you also been watching these size put sellers who've been at it for a while here in Match? And what do you think about their latest batch, sir?
Well, it's funny. I think I've talked about Bumble a couple times, which is another dating site.
Yes.
And there's a supersized put bomber in there that definitely reloads.
Hey, Henry, which one do you prefer?
I've never used a dating site. I'm just a little bit too old.
Just kidding.
Thanks, Mark. But in Bumble, it's the 9.5 strike, and that's in April, and that's an $11 stock. So I wouldn't surprise me if this was the same person, somebody who's like, kind of maybe has an appetite to increase their a cash position in the sector, and they're just doing it through some strategic put sales.
I'm just checking. The last time we talked about a size put seller in Match Group was back on Options Oddities on the pro side, listeners, on February 9th. We talked about somebody, very similar trade, 11,000 of the January expiring on the weeklies, the 1230 puts. So same exact strike. They sold those for 20 cents when the stock was 34.30 back in December of last year. So not that dissimilar of a trade. People like drawing lines in the sand in these dating apps. Mr. Meatball, same question for you. And also, what do you prefer, Match or Bumble, sir?
I've been noticing they've been selling a lot of this. They were selling strangles, selling calls, selling puts in this thing. These dating sites are great for put selling. Can I sell puts in Ashley Madison?
There you go. You might have missed that boat, sir. That could have been a little while back, I think, on that one, man. That's a name I haven't heard in quite some time. Leave it to the Meatball. Bring in a blast from the past. Speaking of blast, let's see what you folks have for us. Are you putting us on blast? I guess let's find out a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, listeners, just because the cat was away doesn't mean the mice couldn't play. We have a fun question of the week that's been raging for you out there. I'll pay that off in a second. Right now, first, let's go and see what you folks had on the brain last week. We had a double question of the week. We had two guns, one for each of you last week. First off, inspired by our discussion on this very show last Monday, we said, hey, Apple and Tesla both around 170. At least they were when we posted that poll, listeners. We just talked about Apple earlier, listeners. Apple now at 171.10, and good old Tesla hanging out right now, if my machine, 175.5. So Tesla, at least near term, is the winner chicken dinner. But we asked you, gun to your head, which one would you rather buy? And 56.7% of you chose Apple. Again, it was a bit of a tight race out there. It was back and forth, as you can see by the final numbers out there, that just slightly over half going the Apple route, 43.3% going Tesla. Near term, Tesla is the winner. Long term, who shall win? We shall find out. We also asked you last week, Q1 drawn to a close. But which market segments have you the most hyped, the most excited right now for the rest of the year? Gave you three choices and the infamous other: equities, crypto, and vol. A lot of you wrote in on the other for fixed income. Hey, not looking so great this week, but we respect your choice nonetheless. But vol took it. Our vol-savvy audience running away with it, 43.3%. What does that mean? What excites you? Are you excited to try to harvest a little bit more of some downside out there? Are you specking for some upside? In which case, you got a little bit of juice payoff on that this week. I'm curious, how are you playing? Are you trying to get that erosion trade to continue kicking in? Starting to get to some low levels out there, but hey, you can still make that work if you're diligent out there. Either way, 43.3% excited about vol right now. 30% number two for crypto, and 20% only coming in for equities, which is kind of surprising. And then bringing up the rear, 6.7% for other, which you said a lot of you wrote in for treasuries. Fast forward to this week, listeners. What do we have on the docket this week? Another kind of straightforward positioning question. We had the Meatball talking earlier in the show. He says maybe he's starting to sniff a top out here in this market. That's what we're asking you right now. Quite simply, how are you approaching the S in your portfolio? Could be SPX, could be SPY. We don't care. We don't judge. How are you approaching the S&P 500 right now in your portfolio? Gave you four choices. Straight long, so you're playing the old ride or die Uncle Mike card. Or you're long, but maybe you're spooked, so you're long with the put in your back pocket, so you got some hedges for a rainy day. Or maybe you're even more skittish, you're just going to the old stock replacement route, stock substitution, or maybe you just got a long call. You're just riding on that, and who knows what you're doing with the rest of it. Maybe you're a number four choice, you're completely out. I'm out. I'm sitting in cash. So a lot to unpack. Since I did besmirch the Uncle List of Mikes, I will allow him to go first. Mr. Uncle Mike, I know how you're positioning out there. You're just long up the wazoo, all things S&P 500. But more importantly, how do you think our audience is positioning? And then B, are you surprised by any of our other results from last week, like vol winning with our audience in terms of what they're most excited about, or Apple taking it with our audience, sir?
Vol winning with the audience, that did kind of surprise me a little bit. In terms of where I think our audience is, of the choices with which you would say, I would say long, but with a put or some type of protection in place with where it is. I think that our audience recognizes that when you're at all-time highs, it's not always the worst thing to take some deltas off the table in one way, shape, or form. And I didn't feel besmirched by any means. Mark, you've been really nice to me ever since the whole dysentery scandal that you lied about in the city of St. Charles a few years back.
In my defense, it was rickets, but, you're right. Water under the bridge now. Even though those Skippy folks, they're on my blacklist until they cut a check or two my way. But that's a conversation for another day. Let's go out to the greasiest of Meatball. Mr. Meatball, sir. First off, are you excited and or surprised that our audience saying they're most hyped about vol right now? What do you think they're up to out there? B, that they're loving Apple, and then C, which way are they approaching the S&P 500 right now? Straight long, but with the put, stock sub, or they're out, they're in cash?
All right, so let's go in reverse order. They're out. Not surprised they love Apple. And I'd be excited about vol too. I think it looks really interesting the way it's trading. Plus, we've got some fun stock splits to talk, which I guess we'll get to talk about on Vol Views tomorrow, involving UVXY and probably UVIX very soon. So I'd be excited about vol myself.
Juicy 5 for 1. I was hoping for at least a 10. But hey, I guess we get what we get out there, and we don't get upset, even though on Vol Views, I get paid to get upset. So that's kind of what we do on that show. All right, last but not least, Mr. Flowmaster, any thoughts on Vol taking it with our audience, Apple also winning with our audience, and where do you think they're positioning right now in terms of the S&P 500?
Well, it makes me very happy to know people are really thinking in terms of, volatility. It does show that the audience is, thinking a little bit beyond just, what's going to go up tomorrow. Vol is definitely the story of the moment. I mean, with realized vol, VIX super low, realized vol, I think in March was under 10 in SPX. So I was just talking to a friend yesterday who trades, and there's a lot of debate, and even when you and Matt were talking on the Advisor Show, there's a lot of debate about whether this vol is too low or what the heck is going on. What's I guess nice is that at this level, if you want to be long it, you can be. It's not going to cost you a fortune. It's you can kind of try to gamma hedge. In reality, the realized vol has still been below the implied. So owning options has not really paid off much, even when we get a couple of moves like we've had. Right? We were down 1% for a little bit the other day, and then we kind of recovered a little bit. So, but we realized vol around 9.2. It's if you think about like all the things we've seen as trading for a long time, we do know that vol can sit here for a while. It could go down even lower, but the kind of the convexity is to the upside, right? The payoff of owning it certainly has a lot more upside than being shorted. So, and I think we're all kind of in the same boat. It's like, well, seems to be profitable to keep selling it. However, I don't want to have much of a position on because things could turn on a dime. And, that's exciting about the vol. So, and then, the Apple versus Tesla, it's funny. It makes me think of, there was a quant in the office one time who had actually pitched outperformance options. So you could buy one contract on basically Apple minus Tesla. And I was like, well, that's kind of a cool idea.
That's like a peers trade option. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but what's funny is he didn't actually get very far because a lot of the industry would much rather have you do two trades, buy some Tesla and short some Apple, or vice versa. And he was kind of like, "But this is a good idea." I said, "It is a good idea, but there's some resistance to it." So I don't know. I mean, I've kind of stayed away from both Tesla and Apple over the years. And, obviously in the long-term Apple they've both, done amazingly well. But I do think that, there's a little shakeup going on, and it's a healthy shakeup, right? Because these the Mag 7 was made of such a crazy part of the market cap that everybody kind of knew that was not a healthy sign.
So which way are they going? Are they long S&P, long with the put? Are they out? Are they long stock subs instead?
I think long S&P with a put is a pretty nice trade.
All right, so we got 2 votes for long but hedged with the put. Meatball says the folks are out, and the Meatball has his finger on the pulse of the audience this week, if ever so slightly. 37.3% of you saying you're out. You're sitting in cash. You're getting off this ride, getting while the getting is good. So you listen to Uncle Mike's advice, or at least his favorite saying, never before in the history of the markets has been a better time to sell. You heard that and said, you know what? I'm taking you up on that, Uncle Mike. 37.3%. Followed by number 2, you're long, but you got to put in your back pocket. 32.2% of you falling that way. Straight long, the Uncle Mike camp, ride or die, 23.7%. Only 6.8% going the long call or the stock sub route, which I thought was kind of interesting. Thought there'd be a little bit more love for that as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's go around the block, see what everybody they're keeping an eye on until our next episode on Monday. Mr. Uncle Mike, we'll start with you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until the Monday episode?
Definitely watching precious metals, commodities in general, seeing where we're at with it. Just seeing that the little bump that we have going on, seeing if that can continue, watching bonds. And of course, you got to watch stocks. But ironically, stocks are probably third on my radar right now. That isn't often the case.
Wow. No love for equities. Uncle Mike's selling them all. He's straight 100% into silver and maybe 1% in the 10-year. There you go. That's Uncle Mike's holdings right now. Oh, and then 0.001% in Shiba Inu. I forgot about that. Out there for the Uncle list of Mike's. Mr. Meatball, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on through the weekend until the Monday episode?
Well, we have the little bit of non-farm payrolls coming up in the next few days, which I think are something people are going to want to pay attention to. Obviously, we'll meet before CPI, but I had a non-farm payrolls and plenty of Fed speak. I think you got to watch the bond market. That is becoming the tail, and it is back in the forefront. And people are starting to get worried about the June rate cut that I'm here to tell you is not going to happen. But people are getting a little concerned about this whole inflation thing again.
Funny how that works. Inflation rearing its ugly head again. Last but not least, Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next Thursday?
Well, I'll tell you one thing we didn't talk about at all on this show was I have a basket I made for the cannabis sector stocks, things like Sundial and CGC and ACB. These stocks, one of them was up, ACB was up 44% yesterday. So that whole sector, there were a bunch of them that were up double-digit percent. I don't think, it's funny. You could actually probably use these weed stocks as a little barometer of the speculativeness of things because I don't think there's really anything changing in that industry. It's definitely got big problems with the way that it's still illegal federally, but it's just something to keep an eye on. I'll be looking. We do have some earnings around the corner: Delta, Citigroup, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, all next week. So I think earnings will be kind of fun. And I'm actually trying to work the command or the kind of functionality I'm working on right now is actually using the VIX 1D, which is the VIX made out of the daily options, just one day and 2 days out, and try to come up with a good way to visualize it because it has this issue where it goes up during the day because the average between today and tomorrow changes. But if you look at it and say, look, it's 2 o'clock right now, I just want to see the VIX 1D at 2 o'clock going back for the last week or two. That's the way to plot it. So I'm doing some prototypes of that, and then hopefully we can get it into the platforms.
All right, listeners, that music means we've come to the end of another epic journey through the world of options. Before we go, Mr. Flowmaster, if folks want to check out all that cool functionality you were just talking about, where should they go? What should they do?
SEBO.com/RMA. You can request a trial for Trade Alert, Live Vol, or Silex, or even FT Options, which is our semi-pro front end. And we'll be happy to help you out.
Kick the tires and light the fires on all that stuff. If you like what we were talking about throughout lots of the show today, listeners, then kick the tires over there at SEBO.com/RMA. And Mr. Meatball, same question for you. Folks want to talk to you about 0-day or VIX, or maybe debate the fact that we're at a top in the market with you. Where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Option Pit. I'm putting out all kinds of great stuff. Worth a look, and we check out our YouTube channel. Also, the option, just Google Option Pit, and or don't Google, put it in YouTube, put in Mark Sebastian, or put in Option Pit, and you'll find the channel.
Check him out on the old tubes, listeners, if you want to see his beguiling face over there in the land of the pit. And speaking of beguiling, they don't get more beguiling than the Uncle-list of Mike's. Mr. Uncle Mike, if they want to talk silver with you or anything else, where should they go? What should they do?
Head to stcharleswealth.com. Would be more than happy to talk about silver or anything else, and I won't be beguiling. Actually, I don't even know what beguiling means. Follow me on Twitter as well, at Mike Tusaw, TOSAW.
There you go, listener. That's going to do it for us on the old OB. But fret not, we're not done for the day. Nope, I'm back. I'm raring to go, listener. So I'll be back in a little bit talking all things futures options with our buddy, the once and future Dr. Vix. What will make it onto the show? We got to run the numbers. We got to go see for ourselves. You got to tune in coming up in a half an hour on the pro side if you're listening live. On the on-demand side later today, this week in futures options, see what makes it on the old show. Of course, if you want to join us in the pro, get it live, theoptionsinsider.com. TSLA.com/pro is the place to go. Back again tomorrow for Vol Views. Who's going to join us in the hot seat? Got to tune in to find out. And then after that, exclusively for our pro fans, back again with a little bit of the old options oddities until we're back again next Monday. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.